So in my previous video, I talked about how the Chicago Bulls genuinely look like they're about to completely blow it up. We of course know that the Los Angeles Lakers are heavily interested in potentially trying to, trade for DeMar DeRozan and Alex Caruso. And in that video, I did talk about how there are a ton of reports going around that the trade market is apparently not too good for Zach Lavine, but there has actually been one team who has come up and does look like they are genuinely really interested in Zach Lavine, and that does happen to be the Toronto Raptors, with it currently being reported now that the Raptors have interest in trading for Zach Lavine, and this is all being reported by Shams. Now, this is, again, a really interesting one for a lot of reasons, because I, like most people, do think the Toronto Raptors probably need to somewhat blow it up, but also I feel like there's a chance for this team to be able to kind of rebuild on the run and reset. Like, if any NBA team is going to be that 7th to 11th seed for a couple years and then jump dramatically, I very much think it's Toronto, and it does look like they are trying to do that, taking each off-season piece by piece and time by time and adding players to their depth. Like, again, last season they added Dennis Schroeder. Next season it might be a similar player, right? But the thing is, with the Toronto Raptors, I always felt like maybe trading away a Pascal Siakam right now would have been a good idea, but it doesn't necessarily seem like that's probably the direction they might be going in, as again, they're interested in Zach Lavine. So it really does, beg the question, well, if they're going to be interested in Zach Lavine, what are you going to give up and who are you going to trade? I did see a theory out there that they would offer up Gary Payton, what the fuck? What team is this, mate? Who am I talking about? Gary Trent, I believe Dennis Schroeder, and a protected first round pick to bring in Zach Lavine. But again, in saying that, that would be a relatively good idea in terms of the Raptors have like really good, potential star power, where they've now got Pascal Siakam, Zach Lavine, and Scotty Barnes in that team. But if we're going to look at this team real quick, you would have Pascal, Pirtle, OG Anunoby, right, Zach Lavine, and of course Scotty Barnes. That is one of the best starting fives in the NBA. Extremely good if they were to make that trade. But if we look at their bench, there's not a whole lot going on off the bench. If they were to make that trade that I've just suggested earlier, their bench would look like Chris Boucher, Thad Young, Otto Porter Jr., Grady Dick, Jalen McDaniels, Precious Achiuwa, and Malachi Flynn, right? Definitely not the worst bench in the league, but not a very good one either. I haven't seen Otto Porter Jr. play much basketball recently. I think he missed like a whole season through injury. Thad Young is serviceable at best. Again, he's like a 35-year-old power forward center. Chris Boucher is low-key extremely underrated. A lot of Raptors fans love him. He's a very talented guy. Grady Dick is just not NBA material right now. Precious Achiuwa can't do a whole lot on the court, and I don't know how long his career is furthermore going to last for. And then again, you got a couple other guys there, but there's not a whole lot going on. Right now, that bench is okay because you've got Boucher and Gary Trent side by side there, and both of those players are really, really good. And again, I still feel like they maybe see Grady Dick eventually one day being a really good prospect for them. But if it was me and the Raptors didn't want to blow this up, if I was the GM of this team, again, I would just keep taking this step by step. I wouldn't trade for a guy like Zach Lavine because I really like Dennis Schroeder and Gary Trent. I actually think they're good, and I would like to keep my first round picks if I was them for the time being. So if a player that was really, really good was to be up for trade, you could go after him. Again, Zach Lavine is a very good player, but I don't think that's where Toronto are really heading, and I don't necessarily think that's the move for them. Again, I think Toronto fans either want them to blow it up, or they're seeing the vision of, hey, let's just take this year by year, keep adding to the depth. Again, last year we added Grady Dick and Dennis Schroeder. Next off-season, we can re-sign Gary Trent, add another top 15 pick, and of course, sign another player probably on around 10 mil or so. And then that would give them a really nice depth chart. That's probably where they need to go, because their starting five is low-key pretty good as it is. It's a pretty good starting five. The only player I would potentially move on from there is maybe OG, and that's if he wants to go. If not, I like that starting five. I just really think that bench needs a lot of work. It definitely needs a lot of work, and I think you could very much add to that. One more off-season of adding a relatively nice bench, you've got a pretty good team there that could maybe push for, obviously, the playoffs. So that's how I would ideally do this. Not just that, if you're Chicago, is Gary Trent, Dennis Schroeder, and a protected first-round pick going to fix a couple of the problems? Their main problem right now is defense. And I said this earlier, if you can go to the Lakers and get like a Gabe Vincent and Rui Hachimura and something else for DeMar DeRozan, that's a great move for them. Again, Hachimura could maybe turn into an all-star, very similar to how Markkanen did on the Jazz. Then you could obviously bring in that defense with Gabe Vincent and the picks. I'd be trying to make those moves before trading Zach Lavine, because I think they're more crucial. Again, because DeMar DeRozan's a free agent as well. You're going to want to trade him before it's too late. Zach Lavine, not so much. You've got a lot of time to move around with him. And look, his value's not the best right now. And there's still a chance and still some time to try and improve it. I think it's, it is what it is. We'll see how they go. If I was the Toronto Raptors, I probably wouldn't do this. I would, again, if they're not going to trade anyone, I'd go into the offseason, try and get a nice quality player at like pick 10, sign a really nice player and re-sign Gary Trent, and hope Grady Dick takes that next step, and then you've got a pretty nice depth chart right there. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel for all the latest NBA content and NBA news. Don't forget to comment your thoughts and opinions. What would you guys personally do if you were the Toronto Raptors? Would you try and trade for a guy like Zach Lavine, or would you not? I'd very much like to know. Don't forget to subscribe to my podcast, my gaming channel, and my IRL/vlog channels. Links for them will be in the description down below. But as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.